Hello guys, it's Revolution. On this video we're going to talk about Merged Zamasu's immortality, or even Future Zamasu's immortality, I guess you could say, as Merged Zamasu's immortality is essentially Future Zamasu's immortality. Given that we've seen Zamasu return in the Super Dragon Ball Heroes verse, obviously not quite canon, a verse created by Bandai Namco, they have had Merged Zamasu return despite his erasure at the hands of the future Omni King Zeno. And given what we saw in episode 10 of Super Dragon Ball Heroes, where Mecha Merged Zamasu's immortality tanked a direct hit from the powerful Jiren the Grey of Universe 11. And it was at least a somewhat serious Jiren. I'm not saying he went all out, but a somewhat serious Jiren, considering his surprise that Merged Zamasu had survived his attack. It's become abundantly clear that many people in the community do not understand the nature of Zamasu's immortality. It is also very clear that many people do not understand that there are many types of immortality. So in this video we're going to discuss those types of immortality and which ones apply to Merged Zamasu from the Dragon Ball Super anime, and also what may apply to Super Dragon Ball Heroes. But before we begin, I may be covering this battle soon. Who would win out of True Golden Frieza from the Tournament of Power and Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black from the Future Trunks arc? Let me know who you think would win this battle of evil and your reasons why down in the comment section. And whilst you're doing that guys, if you're on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook, do come follow me on those social media platforms for all your trolling needs. The Daishenken trained Broly is here. Hit that subscribe button. Keep lending the Daishenken your energy. Keep smashing that like button. All your support is truly appreciated. So in Dragon Ball Super, Merged Zamasu appeared in episode 65 after Future Zamasu and Goku Black fused using the Potara earrings. Of course, with Future Zamasu as part of his body, as part of the fusion, one of the fusees, Merged Zamasu also gained Zamasu's immortality. With this immortality in union with Goku Black's same body, initially it seemed that this new fusion would be an all-conquering fusion, given that Saiyan's bodies can continuously keep growing in strength, and Goku Black in particular was undergoing faster adaptation and Zenkai growth than full-blooded Saiyans like Goku and Vegeta, and even a hybrid Saiyan Earthling in Future Trunks. Whilst we were told this through the narrative in the Dragon Ball Super manga by Toyotaro, we didn't actually get told it in the anime, but we did see it in action. We saw Goku Black growing much faster than Goku and Vegeta. This was because Zamasu's spirit was now in Goku's body, which almost renewed the adaptation and Zenkai growth of that body. So this continuous growth, coupled with the power of the Potara and the immortality of Future Zamasu, immortality granted by Super Shenron at that, this combination seemed almost unstoppable. Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta tried, as well as Super Saiyan Rage Trunks. We even got a Father-Son Gallic gun, and whilst they did have some success with these things, ultimately nothing worked. Zamasu was guilty of constantly underestimating mortals, constantly giving them openings, but ultimately Goku admitted, despite taking a Senzu beam, that he, Vegeta and Future Trunks stood no chance against Merged Zamasu before fusing, or without fusing I guess you could say. As I said, nothing would work against Merged Zamasu despite them landing many direct hits on him with very powerful attacks. As I've said many times in my videos, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku's kick on Zamasu simply just caught Zamasu off guard. Goku took a Senzu beam and he could have used it again if he thought it would work. He didn't. Only fusion could compete with this fusion. But it became evidently clear that Merged Zamasu's immortality wasn't growing stronger, it was actually breaking down. It was deteriorating, it was eroding. This was because one part of the fusion, Zamasu's body, was immortal, but Goku Black's body was not immortal. As Gowasu said in episode 66 of Dragon Ball Super, if the balance between Zamasu's soul and body is becoming unstable, our chance may lie there, implying that because the body is unstable, that the immortality was in fact weakening, which was why Gowasu went on to say, but for that, we will need an even greater power to hit him with than before, which was why Goku opted for fusion. Now in the anime, the depiction of this fight between Vegito Blue and Merged Zamasu seemed somewhat different, but ultimately, it was essentially the same. Vegito Blue was significantly more powerful in terms of raw power than Zamasu. But the immortality factor was essentially an equalizer to Vegito's far greater power. If you watch the fight again, sure, Merged Zamasu does swap hands with him at some points, he even manages to land a blow, but he essentially does nothing of note to Vegito Blue. Even when it seems Merged Zamasu actually overpowered Vegito Blue in a fist struggle, it turned out that Vegito was feigning that so he could stab him with the key sword. However, he would eventually heal from this key sword and continue fighting, but ultimately then go on to keep getting pummeled and eventually hit by the final flash, and then Vegito would go to finish it and ultimately defuse. This key sword went right through Zamasu's heart. Of course, Zamasu was told at that point that he's no longer immortal, but that's somewhat not quite the case because, sure, he's not immortal in the same regards to what he was before he started fighting Vegito Blue. However, his immortality was still in play, it was just corroding. And Shin, the Supreme Kai Universe 7, will go on to say he's no longer healing but falling apart. Falling apart is a process. But right after the final Kamehameha, Vegeta used the Ki Enhanced Punch and said say goodbye. You saw smoke dissipate from Merged Zamasu's face, but just as Vegito Blue was closing in on the victory, he would defuse, because ultimately he used too much power. Now, it's unknown whether the Potara fusion can handle more power than their Metamaran fusion, but we know that both diffuse once the fusees use too much power whilst in the fusion. But Vegito Blue used that much power against Merged Zamasu that he literally diffused. Even Gogeta Blue in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie did not diffuse from the amount of power he used against a much stronger opponent. That's how strong Merged Zamasu's equalizer was, his immortality. Don't get it twisted, it's not raw power, it's a hack's ability, immortality. But as we saw, Merged Zamasu's immortality was breaking down, it was corroding. The bigger hits Zamasu took, the more he started to have self-doubt, and it ultimately caused his demise. We saw Vegito Blue use the final Kamehameha. Now, in the manga of Dragon Ball Super, the Supreme Kai of Universe 7, Shin states that this particular attack, two moves, the final flash and the Kamehameha, making the hybrid final flash, two power amping moves that amp the user's power beyond their actual power level, was stated to have surpassed Beerus in power level in the manga. Now, of course, the manga and the anime are two separate continuities, but what we do know is that Akira Toriyama approved everything Toyotaro written in the Future Trunks saga, meaning that what we saw in the manga at least fit in line with Akira Toriyama's lore. That particular information was never confirmed in the anime, but it wasn't contradicted either. But in the anime and the manga, Merged Zamasu was hit by this attack in the anime, but he wasn't in the manga. Vegito diffused whilst powering up this attack. But in the anime, it directly hits him. Now, a lot of people have said he absolutely tanks this attack, if there's no damage to him at all. I say nonsense. We don't actually see what happens to Merged Zamasu in this attack, because he is covered by a massive blast. We do see those little lines, though, that usually suggest that somebody's been utterly destroyed. But he is immortal, or at least somewhat immortal at this point, and he has regenerated. Upon coming out of this attack, Vegito Blue goes to attack him with a Ki Enhanced Punch, saying that this will finish it, and then of course Vegito Blue diffuses in the anime. But only moments later, we see Future Trunks as the Super Saiyan Rage, who was literally just standing on the sidelines, do more visible damage in the anime to Merged Zamasu with a key sword than Vegito Blue did with the final Kamehameha. But we know that Future Trunks is nowhere near Vegito Blue's level, because upon going to use Potara Fusion, Goku stated that none of them had a chance against Merged Zamasu, and even upon seeing Vegito Blue, Future Trunks called Vegito Blue's energy unbelievable. Vegito Blue's power level was unbelievable to Future Trunks. Now, unless you're going to say you got a Zenkai boost from standing there and watching Vegito Blue fight Merged Zamasu and using a key sword, then there's no way Future Trunks was stronger than Vegito Blue, but he visibly, in the anime, did more damage to Merged Zamasu than Vegito Blue did. But this is why I always say, don't take one animation sequence in the anime as hyperliteral at face value, because you have to take the wider context of the lore, the wider context of the narrative into account for your power scaling. That's what a good power scaler would do. As I already mentioned earlier in this video, Merged Zamasu's immortality was deteriorating. So of course, as I mentioned, Zamasu has a certain set of immortality. He isn't unkillable. In fact, Not many immortal beings in fictional verses are completely unkillable. They always usually have an Achilles heel somewhere, somewhat. Now, Merged Zamasu does have quite a few different types of immortality. Now, I've taken this particular list of immortality types from Verse Wiki Battles because they are pretty much correct. I don't have a problem with Verse Wiki. In fact, I like the stuff they do. I don't agree with all their character analysis. When it comes to detailing abilities, they are pretty good. Now, if you look at the types on this particular list, these are the ones that I actually believe Merged Zamasu has. He has eternal life. He's gifted with this type of immortality. He cannot die from natural causes, old age, or conventional illnesses. It does say there that he can be killed by unnatural causes, but Merged Zamasu cannot be killed by unnatural causes because he also has resilient immortality. He can survive injuries that would otherwise be lethal to a normal person. As we see, not just Merged Zamasu, but Future Zamasu as well, literally survived getting his head blown off. Goku Blue was far more powerful than Future Zamasu in terms of raw power, but of course, Future Zamasu had the Hack's ability of resilient immortality, so as soon as his head got blown off, it literally just reappeared via regeneration, which is the third type of immortality on this. As it states on the image on your screen right now, there are different degrees of regeneration. We've seen that in Dragon Ball itself. We've seen, for example, Piccolo, who can regenerate, providing his head and torso are intact. We've seen Piccolo many times regenerate his arms, even rip off damaged arms and regenerate a new arm in a very short space of time. Then even Cell, who had Piccolo's genetics, of course, can use regeneration himself, though there is a bit of a plot hole there, but Cell is able to regenerate from a singular nucleus, as we saw after he self-imploded on King Kai's planet, but reappeared as Super Perfect Cell in the Cell games. He regenerated his whole body and even got a Zenkai boost from doing so. And then there's Majin Buu, who can literally regenerate from a singular atom. As long as his body's not being completely deatomized, he can regenerate from a small speck of dust. Once again in a very short space of time. It almost seemed invincible back in the Buu saga, but it does take a little bit of time for him to completely regenerate. So if you can either destroy him all in once, as Goku did with the Genki Dama on Kid Buu, or destroy each piece or each atom of Majin Buu's makeup, then you can stop him from regenerating. However, Merged Zamasu, you can literally destroy him and he will just reappear. As we saw in episode 10 of Super Dragon Ball Heroes, after taking Jiren's huge attack, he just reappeared. As Jiren said, something stirring, and Merged Zamasu reappeared and said, "I'm invincible." So how is it that Vegito Blue's attacks were breaking down Merged Zamasu's immortality, but Jiren's couldn't? Does that imply that Zamasu's immortality got stronger in the hypothetical time that elapsed between the Future Trunks saga and the event in Super Dragon Ball Heroes? The answer is no. Whilst Merged Zamasu does grow in power, raw power, due to his adaptation and Zenkai boost from his Saiyan DNA from Goku's body, Goku Black's body, part of the fusion, his immortality would usually remain the same, his immortality. But remember what Gowasu said, that it wasn't just the fact that half of his body was Goku Black's body and that part of the fusion wasn't immortal, it was the fact that his soul was becoming unstable. The Corrupt Zamasu part was Zamasu's complex emotions made real. Due to Merged Zamasu's soul and body being unstable, it was allowing the immortality effect to wear off, to corrode, to deteriorate. Goku, Vegeta and Trunks all realised this. That's why they fused to become Vegito and hit him with a power bigger than ever before and kept on pummeling him. It's quite probable that in episode 11 of Super Dragon Ball Heroes, that Jiren may realise this himself. It's not that Jiren's necessarily weaker than Vegito Blue from the Future Trunks saga, it's probably because the Merged Zamasu's body and soul isn't as unstable as what it was back then. There's a reason Vegito Blue didn't go straight in with the final Kamehameha. Now, if you go over to Verse Wiki Battles and look at their immortality section, it's pretty good, it's a nice read. There's over 10 different types of immortality. The 3 that I've mentioned are ones that Merged Zamasu definitely has, but you could argue that Astral Zamasu also has Resurrection Immortality and Deathless Immortality, because despite his body being destroyed, he managed to resurrect himself as a metaphysical manifestation that entwined itself with time and space. And it's quite possible that Zamasu's immortality was a deathless immortality, because ultimately, whilst his body could be destroyed, his spirit couldn't be destroyed. Ultimately, it took Zeno to erase Astral Zamasu from existence, though it is important to note that Goku did state if he could use Super Saiyan Blue he might be able to do it himself, but because Zamasu had entwined himself with space-time at that point, Goku should be able to destroy a space-time continuum at that kind of power level. But of course he couldn't actually transform into Super Saiyan Blue because he didn't have enough energy left. Fatigue still exists in Dragon Ball. I must also note that when Beerus was queried as to whether he could destroy Zamasu, he didn't actually answer in episode 67, and Whis retorted that they had something much better than the evil containment wave to trap Zamasu with. They weren't talking about destroying him or erasing him, they were talking about trapping him, so it's quite possible that even Beerus or Whis may not have been able to actually destroy the immortality that Zamasu possessed. After all, he did get his immortality from Super Shenron. So it is possible that future Zamasu, merged Zamasu, and Astral Zamasu's spirit, or essence I guess you could say, was deathless immortality, as he is not a conventional being and he cannot be traditionally killed, but that is to be confirmed. So it's quite possible that Mecha Merged Zamasu in Super Dragon Ball Heroes may not actually be able to be destroyed by even somebody as powerful as Jiren, who is far more powerful than Merged Zamasu is, because his body and soul are now stable. Thus his hack's ability, immortality, is also now stable. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway guys, let me know what you think on all this information. Merged Zamasu's immortality is often downplayed in verse battles, I often find. Sure, there are definitely other characters more powerful than him in terms of raw power, but don't downplay the immortality effect. Anyway guys, I would like to know, would you like to see Zamasu again in the future? Whilst I personally wouldn't want to see him for at least another few arcs in Dragon Ball Super, I certainly wouldn't mind if he returned. I think he's still got a bit more mileage in his character. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Please do smash that like button, lend the Daishinken your energy. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Until next time, Ad Astra.